Okay, let me put my hat on.
Okay.
Betty!
Okay. We're Max, Liz, and Rachel, and we're walking DC!
We're walking DC! Walking DC!
Do you know any of the judges of the Bible?
Wasn't Samson? The Samson one?
I don't want to be out.
Ruth. Samson.
Wait.
Who is your favorite judge? Samson.
Who's your favorite judge?
Ehud.
Why?
Because he was left-handed, it was just kind of cool. How God uses what some people perceive as a weakness, and it becomes a strength, and God uses it for His glory.
That's great. I like.
Who's your favorite judge?
Judge Judy.
Who's your favorite judge?
Judge Judy.
Samson.
Let's go!
Who is your favorite judge from the Bible?
I do want to say up front, I don't really love any of the judges as human beings. Like, I don't think I'd let any of them babysit my kids. But as pure entertainment value, I find Samson's story just to be the wildest. And I do like that one probably the best.
What happened to Samson that made him lose his strength?
He cut his toenails.
They cut his hair.
They cut his hair.
They cut his hair.
What happened to Samson that made him lose his immense strength?
This girl cut his hair.
Yeah!
Okay, what happened to Samson that made him lose his strength?
The girl cut his hair.
Girl cut his hair.
Which girl?
Delilah.
Delilah.
Who is she?
It's a girl.
But who was she?
I believe she's still a girl.
Hey there, Delilah. What's it
Like in New York City.
What happened to Samson that made him lose his immense strength?
Right, so there's some built-in ambiguity into the story, meaning something like, is it that he perceived his loss as the loss of strength, or did he actually lose it? He thought it was because of his hair, and his hair is tied to a Nazirite vow, which does not allow him to do all kinds of activities. And the irony of the story is that Samson breaks the Nazirite vow so many times in the story. And according to the book of Numbers, when you break the Nazirite vow, you're supposed to then shave your head. Well, he doesn't do it, but he keeps breaking the vow in so many different ways. And what's funny is that he then falls in love with this Philistine prostitute named Jezebel, and she fools him into telling him that the strength comes from his hair, which again, it comes from the Lord. But she completes the vow and shaves his head. And then in that, he says he's not strong enough to break the ropes that bind him. The Lord re-strengthens him and allows him to do it. But in the end, the Lord's strength allows him to tear down the pagan temple, which was probably his original calling anyways. And in that suicide run, not only does he die, but then his strength is then finally spent up and served its purpose.
True or false? Deborah dropped a spike on a man's head.
True. Okay, true or false? Deborah dropped a tent spike on a man's head. False. True. Okay.
True or false? Deborah dropped a tent spike on a man's head.
I would go false. She didn't drop it, and it's not Deborah. It's this woman named Jael, and she's actually going to take a tent spike with a hammer and drive it through this guy while he is sleeping, which is pretty visceral, but it somehow brought some sense of peace to the impending war coming her way. So.
How many people were in Gideon's army?
Messages are charged.
I gave it back. I gave back the charger. I'm filming a video.
Which Gideon and in what war?
How many people were in that army that Gideon put together when he scared the Midianites by blasting trumpets and smashing clay pots?
Yeah, Gideon was a chicken, and I don't blame him, but God whittled his army down to 300 guys who just made a lot of noise that sounded like they were much bigger, and it caused enough panic to allow him to win that battle. So 300.
Actually, what is my question? What's the judges?
Who are like 30? What do you want to answer?
What are my question options?
Hold on.
Hey,
Ask someone with 30 cents and $30.
come be in this chef video. I'm already in it. I am too.
Which judge had 30 sons and 30 daughters?
Oh, I heard Mr. David say this one. It's like
Kamala Harris.
Azariah. Is that a thing? Azariah is not even a name.
Ezekiel?
No, I don't know.
Who had 30 sons and 30 daughters? Which judge?
Jeremiah.
Who was the judge who had 30 sons and 30 daughters?
Which judge had 30 sons and 30 daughters?
I think you'd pronounce it Ibzan, I think is how you'd say it.
I would guess.
Yeah, I would guess too. So I think it only gets like a paragraph, but it probably also is stressing the fact that he is marrying those around him. And I think the idea is like he's making treaties through marriage. And this practice will continue to ridiculous lengths once we meet David, who will have multiple spouses himself. And then Solomon, of course, is going to be in the thousands. So we know that this is a foreshadowing of what is to come.
Was Ruth one of the judges?
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. Yes.
Was Ruth one of the judges in the Bible?
Yeah, of course.
Come here.
What's the question?
Was Ruth one of the judges in the Bible?
Was Ruth one of the biblical judges?
No, Ruth is actually a Moabite. She's a woman, and so she's not in there, but she is going to be important later on in the story of the gap leading from Judges into the story of Kings, because she's going to be like the great grandmother of King David. So a Moabitess is going to be into the family of David, which of course leads us into the family.
No.
Who's the only female judge in the Bible?
It's Ruth.
Deborah, dummy. Hey, Deborah, you dummy.
Who is the only female judge from the Bible?
Yeah, I believe her name was Deborah, and she worked alongside an army commander named Barak. But Deborah is, I think, the only female judge mentioned in the book of Judges.
True or false? There was a king whose stomach engulfed a sword.
True.
True or false? In Judges, there is a king whose stomach engulfed a sword after he was stabbed.
Yeah. So I think one of the judges, Ehud, a left-handed judge, took a sword about the length of a cubit, it says, which would be like your elbow to your fingertip. And he went like he was embracing this pagan king Eglon, and he just put the knife right through him, and it just like swallowed him up, like the fat covered it up, I think is the way the story would say it. So you couldn't see the sword, but he's basically dead. And yeah, that's pretty disgusting. That's visceral, but there you go.
Judges were mentioned in the Bible.
I'm gonna go with 10.
What? How many judges are in the Bible?
154.
Wow.
How many judges are mentioned in the Bible?
It's a bit of a tricky question because the word for judge is used by the 70 judges that Moses sets up to rule over the small claims court, and that just keeps working all the way through the Torah. It's even up and running, perhaps even in the time of Jesus, called the Sanhedrin. But I think in the book of Judges there are 12 that are given stories. Some of the stories are exceedingly short, like one paragraph, but there are 12 there. And then right afterwards, 1 Samuel picks up, and then Samuel himself is called a judge, the last judge before the kings come. So I think the technical answer is probably 12, but just to let you know, judges exist in the courts of Moses, and they're even there after the book of Judges, like Samuel would be a good example. So kind of a tricky question.